Well, welcome to another episode of Five Star Conversations, where we talk with hoteliers making a positive impact on the hospitality industry. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Mario Mendis, all the way from Da Nang City in Vietnam. Welcome, Mario.
Hey, Brendan. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Thanks.
Mario, what we'll do is we'll start off with your bio so people are familiar with, and then we'll get into some questions. So
All right.
Mario is
Sounds
an
good.
accomplished international hotelier with a 26-year career that began humbly in Brisbane as a kitchen hand in 1999. Since then, he's held senior level positions across cities and resorts in Australia, Sri Lanka, Dubai, Bermuda, Thailand, and Vietnam. Most notably, he served as the general manager of the iconic Sofitel Saigon Plaza, where he led the hotel through a post-COVID transformation, reinventing its lifestyle offerings and repositioning the property to meet the evolving demands in both local and international guests. In addition to his operational leadership, Mario has been a strong advocate for the broader hospitality industry. As the former chairman of EuroCham, Vietnam's Tourism and Hospitality Committee, he actively championed key policy reforms across visa access, sustainable tourism, and medical and retirement travel. His commitment to diversity is equally evident, signing the Women's Pledge for Gender Diversity in Vietnam and mentoring future industry leaders through guest speaking roles at RMIT Vietnam. Mario's passion for hospitality is deeply rooted in family tradition, with his father also having enjoyed a distinguished hotel career. This heritage has instilled in him a strong sense of cultural connection, service excellence, and innovation. Whether judging on Top Chef Vietnam or guiding multicultural teams across the globe, Mario brings strategic insights, adaptability, and a genuine enthusiasm for elevating guest experience and industry standards. So welcome again, Mario.
Thank you, Brendan. That was fabulous. Wow, I can't believe I've done all that in the past 26 years.
You have, and I get jealous just looking at all the countries that you've worked in. It's amazing.
That's the great thing about this industry where it's, you never work. Like sometimes I feel like you're getting paid to be in this country and work. Like it's like an ongoing holiday, but yeah, it's a fabulous. Where this job takes you around the world is unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point. I suppose the first question then, Mario, you find hospitality or did it find you? Was it a natural progression given that your father was a hotelier? Or did you have some thoughts, oh, maybe I should do something else, but you were brought into hospitality?
But it's a great question. I mean, look. I always say that I'm a second generation hotelier because, look, I used to, like you said, rightfully said, on my holidays, I used to always go visit my dad and his properties in the Middle East and also in Sri Lanka. It was quite fun, walking through the hotels, etc. When I was on holidays, seeing how everything worked, the buzz, the life of it. But at that age, of course, I was quite young. I never thought I'd fall into it. Funny enough, actually, my dreams when I was in Australia was I used to play rugby league, so I thought maybe I'd play for the Broncos one day.
Nice.
Or after that fell out, I was thinking maybe I'll become a undercover like cop because on that time there's a great show about FBI agents going undercover.
Okay.
Uh, all those things kind of like fell through, and then funny enough, reality hit when I started to get into my late teenage years, and started as a dishy man, a good old dishy kitchen hand dish, because I was talking to my dad, and he always said, you got to start at the bottom. You want to
Yes.
learn this industry, start at the bottom and work in every single department. That way, if you want to get to the top one day, you'll be respected by your peers and you'll know exactly how each department, each part comes together to create this amazing experience for guests and for your employees of running a hotel. That's how I fell into it, actually. Is
Interesting.
people used to see, like, in the dishy, my first job as being a dishy back in Australia, in Brisbane, I used to see all the food runners going in and out, right? So I said, oh, give me a hand at it, give me a try at this. So I started running food out, and my manager, my supervisor, used to notice when I dropped the food, I used to always have a little chat with guests and stuff like that. So they said, "You got a bit of a knack for this. You love customer service. You like to create a bit of experience." I said, "Yeah." So that's how that grew from there, going into the front of house and then growing my career through food and beverage, actually.
Yes. And I think one of your first jobs in hotels was food and beverage manager for Accor at a Pullman. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. So it was F&B supervisor at that time, which is team leader supervisor. It was the old Carlton Crest, which is now
Oh,
the
yes.
Pullman and Mercure King George Square.
Yep.
Classic hotel opposite Brisbane City Hall. Great hotel, great F&B, great mice, the famous Picasso restaurant. We had Redford's. These are old school names that people so no, great hotel, great experience. And that was my foray into international hotels, actually. From there, that's what made me make the jump. Like my dad said, okay, get out of your comfort zone and come overseas. Most of my mates were all going to UK to do their 2-year working visas, where I actually went back to my heritage, being Sri Lanka, where I got the chance to be part of the famous Old Lanka Arboretum, which is the Cinnamon Grand. I got my first kind of like expat gig there, running restaurants there. That was an amazing experience as well because it was all cutting edge new concepts that were coming into Sri Lanka. An amazing general manager at the time, Mr. Rohan Kar. He just came from London as well at that time. And it was all about creating the F&B as a destination of the hotel. And then people were not just coming to stay at the hotel, they were coming to dine there regularly. And from outside locals, demographics, international travelers were choosing our hotel because they saw the selection of F&B outlets. There was 18 F&B outlets at this hotel, all specialty outlets. So it was a great time to be a part of that whole era in Sri Lanka when they were creating this. That's where I got, I guess, the itch, I guess. And then I got my foray into Le Méridien, into Dubai. And funnily enough, when I went to Dubai, we were part of the first modern Australian restaurant called Yalumba. It was great fun, working there at Le Méridien, again, another big F&B hotel. Yeah, that's, I can keep going. It keeps going from there to Asia, to Middle East. Yeah. So
Exactly right. And you've spent obviously most recently a lot of time in Vietnam, obviously at the Sofitel.
Yeah, so I guess that's where the big turning point is when I came into Sofitel Saigon Plaza as number 2, and
Yep.
then grew into my GM position actually. And then everyone says, "Oh, you're so lucky to become a GM," and I said that was probably the worst time to become a GM, right in the thick of COVID. Everything's shut down, 50% salaries, and the hotel was still running because like we became sort of like a semi-quarantine hotel, so we still
Right.
had a good 230 rooms in our hotel running. It was a different sort of operation. Fast forward, when COVID ended is where we said, okay, now how are we going to reposition ourselves? I mean, because like every other hotel, we were kind of like decimated. And at that time, Vietnam was one of the last countries to open worldwide. So for a good year after the rest of the world had opened, we were still struggling with domestic market. And that's the time there where we reutilized our hotel, where I know in Australia they do this quite often, is where, you've got great real estate areas in your hotel. How do we bring in partners, like unique partners that match our brand? And this is where it all started, by bringing in the guys, the Guido, 2 Dutch guys who created the whole ministry concept, which is a speakeasy barbershop, private chambers room. So it was in an unutilized place of our hotel, man. It was like 90 square meters. And 6 months later, that place ended up creating more per square meter than a grade A commercial office building. Likewise, we brought in cutting-edge technology with wellness, bringing infrared saunas, hyperbaric chambers, new calm therapy with a reset concept. A great Aussie guy named Ian used to run that. So we started that concept in terms of wellness. We used to lease out some of our areas to concepts that match the whole luxury lifestyle of our hotel, but they were actually players, like individual players within the society. So what this created was a new demographic of guests coming to the hotel. So you created more footfall, right? Be it in food and beverage, be it in lifestyle, be it in wellness and entertainment. And this is what kind of like repositioned the hotel forward. And then as things started to open up, of course, travelers were coming back in. Vietnam is now one of the hottest destinations, actually, for Australians traveling out and for actually the world. So a lot, we see the shift moving from Thailand and Indonesia into Vietnam. So now, yeah, we're all capitalizing on this boom at the moment.
I love those concepts, particularly the barbershop speakeasy. You should come back to Australia and bring bring some of those with you. I think we need a bit of an injection in some of the hotels here.
Yeah, that was the Brisbane's. If you think about Brisbane's 80s and 90s, we like the hotels and even the standalone venues were fabulous, but it was very community driven, right? We'd
Yes.
all work together creating these concepts, and then people would support the business. And then of course, I guess labor costs went through the roof, and then it just became too hard to run good F&B. If you do it right, I still feel like it will work. It's just about creating, not looking at that whole costing side of it, but look at the whole holistic journey of this whole F&B concept or wellness concept, where it will continue to drive business to you.
Yep, yep. Yeah, we're seeing a revamp, obviously, of hotel restaurants here with outsourcing
Mm.
and specialist restaurants. Luke Mangan, obviously. Downtown Sydney, there's a good restaurant that's run there, and it's not uncommon. But wellness is
Yeah,
something that we're probably due to get more into in this market. Spas definitely, but as you said, hyperbaric chambers, infrared beds, and things
cool.
like that are definitely things that people are looking for now.
Yeah, that's what brought me to, as you can see behind me, my big wellness resort over here, actually. We've got all of that, actually. And it's a trillion. Look, they just posted it's a 4 trillion business now. People are looking for that whole holistic wellness travel experience because let's look, COVID's done and dusted, but it really repositions people's minds. A lot of them went through depression, a lot of them went through a lot of heartache, a lot of them started to see life differently, like wow. And when we talk wellness, it's not just about massages or spas or that. It's
Mm.
it's it's a whole journey. It's about visiting unique spots where completely revitalize your mind, body, and soul. And that could be dining in unique places, eating with locals in different locations, experiencing, of course, the wellness elements being like infrared saunas, healing beds, sound energy. We run this class called sound bath therapy and sound healing, Tibetan style. It's
Okay.
amazing because what they use is these old pots, right? Cast iron pots. And when the guru master, like our guru master, plays it, it seems like it's sucking all the negative energy through your body. It's fabulous when you're lying down and experience it. I mean, I've always been in city corporate hotels, and this is my first time venturing into this. I've seen a whole new aspect of running hotels, and that's where. So our element here is like bringing all that, the food and beverage element, the whole stay experience, and then of course the local community areas where we actually take you down to some of the local temples here to do yoga in the morning. So you're actually stuck in this old Champa era temple from back in the 1600s, but you're doing yoga there with a guru master. So that's why I say wellness is it's open to so many angles to create that whole experience.
I love that. I love that. Mario, is there an experience from the early part of your career that sort of cemented the love of hospitality? I suppose, I mean, you had it already, it was handed down, but was there a moment that you can say, this is it? I think hospitality is definitely for me.
Yeah, that would be Sri Lanka and Dubai, because in both these locations, my career and because of the what I was thrown into, let's say in Sri Lanka, where we got to open 6 F&B outlets in the space of just 18 months, which is not heard of sometimes, but it's just that I got to the GM there and the director of culinary, they entrusted me to a lot in terms of the development where we'd go down to local shops looking for simple things like the plates, the cutlery, the napper uniforms, etc., logo designs. We were given the freedom to play.
Mm.
When you're stuck in international brands, you've got a set guideline book and you just gotta follow that way, right? This is the color tone, this is the Pantone, just go with it. But there, it was all about reinventing it, and that's why that was an amazing experience that I got to be a part of. Same with Dubai. In Dubai, it was a bit more structured. Yes, it was Le Meridian, but again, our EAM at that time, Stefan Blanc, famous veteran hotelier there, and also the GM. At that time, it was still under Starwood. So Starwood also gave the hotels, even though it was Le Meridian, Starwood was very innovative, and they empowered the hotel GMs and EAMs to play again in the food and beverage.
Mm.
This hotel, mate, had 18 food and beverage outlets. And what was so unique is that, let's say the Italian, they would fly down. There was an Italian couple from a small town in Sicily. Then there was the Italian sommelier, and then an Italian maitre d'. So they kept the authenticity of that whole area. Now you go to the French restaurant, same structure. You went to the seafood place, it was all Cantonese chefs and Hong Kong chefs. So each outlet brought in the elements of those countries, and then there was a melting pot of us from all different other countries in service, managers, supervisors, where it was an amazing experience to be working for us within this community. But we were creating F&B together. We were not just sticking to a guidebook or playbook. We were all being part of creating the story and the atmosphere and the vibe and the whole experience there. So it was very authentic at that time, and I always love those eras. And I always say that nowadays, what they did then, back like 15 years ago, what hotels now are trying to do in some parts of the world. That's how advanced thinking they were in terms of that hotel. And it was actually one of the pilot F&B hotels of the whole region at that time. I'm a lover of F&B because F&B, compared to coming up from rooms division, it's
Yep.
something that you can change on a daily basis. It's every part of the hotel you can play with F&B, be it the restaurant, the lighting, the ambience, all with you can create different sort of experiences. And I always said that F&B makes the hotel as a destination. And also breakfast. Like if you don't have a good breakfast, man, people are going to remember that. And they always say when you have an amazing spread for your breakfast buffet, 5 to 7 times out of 10, the people will come back to dining the outlets later because they trust that, wow, you've created such an amazing spread at breakfast. The quality, the taste, in terms of it could be just simple things. The single blend coffee that you bring, the eggs, where you're getting them, farm free range eggs, the way the chefs were. So they see that you take authenticity to your food and beverage offering. So for sure they're gonna come and try your other outlets within your hotel because they know that you're already at that level. That's what made my love. I like food and beverage. I still get my hands into that. I love food and beverage because, like I said, it really makes the hotel a destination.
I can hear the passion. It coming across loud and clear. And you made an interesting point. I never thought about that. My background was rooms, and you only obviously get to, redo your rooms every 7 or 10 years. But as you said, your restaurant, you can change the ambience and lighting, the menu. You can recreate that whenever you want. That's a great point. A really great
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I mean, look, most owners are not going to be forking out. What is it like? Now it's probably 80 to $100,000 a key, but even back then, you're talking 20 to $30,000 per key to
Yeah,
renovate a room. So they sat like that for 10, 15, 20 years, right? But
exactly.
F&B, yeah, you could tweak it. You could bring in like the best bartender from Asia's 50 best bars from Hong Kong doing guest chef bar. You bring in Michelin star chefs, or
Yeah.
you work with local neighborhood farm to table. But even more than that is like playing with menus. Like I love playing with different menus, the ingredients, the pictures, the style, the layout. And for me, pet hates is of course lighting, music, and menu cut. Like those three are so important because they're all touch points visually, through your ears, through your eyes, through the mood it sets you in. And now you see it across everywhere, right? When you talk about lighting, like Singapore Airlines customize their lighting in their cabins, right?
Mm.
And it creates that whole mood setting. So yeah, visual, definitely.
I've got a question, I suppose, then. Inspiration and advice. I mean, where do you draw inspiration from, and what's the best piece of advice you've received in your career?
Yeah. All right. So there's two parts. Inspiration. I was fortunate enough to have some amazing GMs in my past that have shaped me.
Of
Definitely, of course, let's start with my father. I mean, that's
course.
where he was quite hard on me, but he was hard for a reason. And I really, now when I look back, I think, wow, everything I can take and extract from him has helped me in today's business. Going forward, though, the GM when I was at Cinnamon Grand, Mr. Rohan Kar, visionary guy, always about taking it to the next step forward. Always he was a visionary leader in terms when it came to food and beverage, when it came to the lobby feeling, when it came to the atmosphere. He's the one who taught me a lot about thinking further than what do we have in this box, in this square box. What can you do, and how can we create that? Going into Thailand, also, I was fortunate enough to work with some amazing GMs from the Christopher Leonhardt down at the Mario in my first resort property, Torsten Pinter. And then, of course, one of the ones I want to remember is a good Aussie GM of mine, Timothy Knott. We were in a revenue meeting. I'll never forget that because I was just starting to learn revenue, right? And he was about to ask me some questions. He said, leave the room and don't come back until you know your numbers. And I love that because that is so spot on. You got to know your numbers. You can be creative, you can be a great hands-on person, you can be operational, but if you don't know your numbers, how are you going to run optimizing? When you get up to, obviously that was getting the director EAM level, you need to know your P&L performance, right? So hats off to him. I have to really appreciate that one from him where he taught me much more about financial revenue management optimization discipline. So those I guess were the inspirational parts. Now that I'm at GM now for the past 4 years, I always tell like when I do lectures down at RMIT here, Vietnam, or talking to students or career chats, I always say the 3 Ps, right?
Mhm.
First one, of course, passion. I mean, passion. This industry, as we were talking before, it's a long struggle. Like it's a long stretch, man. You're talking, it's good 15 to 20 years before you can get to the GM title. Everybody wants to get that role when you graduate from hospitality management, but without the passion, it's not going to take you there. You've got to love this job truly. The other ones is an immense amount of patience. Today's world, due to social media, due to iPhones, everyone's more about instant gratification and instant recognition and instant this and everything. But in this industry, it's patience. It takes years to learn every part. You've got to have that patience to understand each system of a hotel, each department of a hotel, how beds change, how does the Opera Cloud system work, how does check-in process work, how does the engineering work for a certain area, can you change the pool pump? You are the main director, theater organizer of the whole aspect of the hotel. So take the patience to go and learn each bit, act like a sponge and absorb that all.
Yep.
And last but not least is perseverance. Because some days you're gonna be like, you're gonna have days where you just like, I'm not gonna say it, but you just like, I want to leave this. I want to like you just break down. Look, I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, I've been let go from a couple of jobs in my early on in my career, but they taught me a lot about that perseverance that I need to have when you go through tough times, through operations. Because hotels, it's whenever a hotel opens, it's open for 365 days a year, 24 hours a day until it shuts down or goes into renovation completely.
Yep.
So you're on all the time. So you got to have a lot of perseverance to push that hotel forward and create its legacy, its story. So I always say the passion, the patience, and the perseverance. You have these three, the three P's, you will wait, the sky's the limit, not GM, CEO, vice president, or even open your own hotel management company. That's you have these three, you'll definitely go far, I guess.
I love that. We'll circle back at the end when we ask for advice. But I think that is in itself great advice.
Yeah.
Mario, is there an emerging trend in our industry that excites you? It could be excite or makes you
Mhm.
slightly nervous. I mean, technology is one of the aspects that I hear a lot of hoteliers saying, we obviously need to be careful that we don't go too far because we
Mhm.
are a people first industry and we need to remember that and you need to use technology wisely. Or is there something else that sort of exciting you at the moment?
Yeah. Look, there's two parts to this. First part, I'll say that technology here, especially our hotel where we've worked with Stefan from Saba Hospitality, fabulous. I mean, for me, what he created within our hotel with the guest compendium and the team here with the ordering service, creating the QR codes, creating the app. So now we have like it's a really user-friendly app. And as soon as a guest, either they scan it at check-in, it's available on their TV. As they walk around, sometimes they're at the poolside or they're by the beach bar, there's a QR code, they scan it, the
Yep.
app pops up. And everything is there. And I'm not just talking about food and beverage ordering. It's got everything from day tours to the promotions that are going on to flight schedules to everything. But it looks like a Facebook, Instagram kind of app. The way they've created the app in terms of the pop-up features, the way it's laid out, the user friendliness of it, the billing procedures. So I have to hats off to Saba Hospitality for that one. It's actually created incremental revenue, at
Yes.
least 15 to 20% more in our food and beverage, but also from a guest experience point of view while they're sitting down, on their sun lounges, they can start to check the hotel out more in detail, be it the spa, watch videos, read the menus, etc., at their leisure. So that's a great feature, of course, I have to say. Let's say the other part being excites me and scares me, of course, like everybody, I guess, the pace of AI. And there's two ways to look at this, I mean, AI now really can replace a lot of jobs. In some hotels, especially from when it comes to marketing stuff, you can reduce your teams down from 5 down to 1 or 2 because some of the apps that are there are fabulous.
Yep.
Even for reporting, for base monthly end reportings, extractions, etc., getting extracting the key points of it. The way it's advancing is fabulous and how we can integrate into hotels. When you talk about how labor costs keep rising and rising, it's sad to say, yes, we talk people first, but from an administrative point of view, you could actually reduce and shrink teams considerably with the AI features and AI programs that are coming out more and more. It's just about how the main head of user absorbs it or implements the AI features in your hotel. Fast forward though, it's a funny question because when I was on an interview recently, also I've got two little boys, and I was thinking about it because I keep looking at AI and how it's advancing. I thought, like, why do they need to go to school anymore? I mean, they're only 7 and 11, but by the time that they are out of school, AI would have advanced to such a level that it would pretty much do everything. And I don't want to be like skeptical or imagine it, but like for me, the biggest scary thing about it is when the amount that all of us are feeding it, that if it gets to a level where it creates emotional intelligence. Because when you talk about hospitality, you talk about people first. The key factor why we're people first is that because we create an emotional connection with our guests and our employees. And that's where it keeps us at people first. But the advancement of AI to emotional intelligence and then synthetic robotics. So when I'm talking like robots that have like skin and everything like us, eyes, you put those two together. What's not to say that you and I are not robots talking to each other? Because we'd be so normal and so real that you would not know the difference. So take that forward and like have them at reception, have them at in a restaurant, walking around in such as a human would be, because they would have one, the emotional intelligence, and the other big thing I always say, because when you become a GM or a senior leader, there's something called emotional tolerance, right? And when I say emotional intolerance, you know that every day we deal with multiple people, like be it your employees or the guests. So you're talking hundreds and hundreds, depending on your room size. It could be even up to 1,000. So you drain. There is a lot of drain from you mentally to deal with that, right? And normally, the higher you are in the position, they say, they say you're matured enough to have that emotional tolerance, right? So when we say AI develops emotional intelligence and emotional tolerance, and then synthetic robotics, what's not to say they could replace pretty much everything, except I can't think of a job that they could not replace them because they've mastered human aspects. Sorry, maybe everyone's probably going like, my God, he's talking crazy now. But
No, look,
it's
I don't think it's crazy. I think we've still got quite a few years for a robot has the emotional intelligence or tolerance to replace a GM, definitely. Because as you said, it's is years of being exposed to so many different things that have shaped you to be the general manager you are today. You can feed a lot of that into AI. It's a really good point because everything I've been reading up until now, and I mentioned I just came back from a conference, and one of the things
yeah,
that came out of that conference was a hotel technology trade show in the US with 6,000 people.
uh-huh.
To me, it brought home the fact that as much as it was a technology show, it was the face-to-face interaction that people actually went for because you could probably find out about a lot of these technologies online or just ask AI,
yeah,
to do some deep research for you. But it was those emotional connections that were still super important. And I don't think we're quite there yet. And I'm a self-confessed geek at the end of the day, but I still believe that there's going to be a place for people within hospitality. I mean, because and I'm just thinking about it now, Mario, is that maybe computers will probably be all quite similar. So it'll be a very
yeah,
generic experience that they're offering to the guest, based on,
mhm,
the model of computer, it's an
yeah,
R2D2 or whatever, they all talk,
yeah,
look the same, deliver the same experience. It'll be sort
yeah,
of McDonald's type. And what I've seen, in our industry over probably the last 10 years is guests don't want that McDonald's type hotel experience. I won't mention the brand, but there's a brand where you could wake up in Sydney, you could wake up in London, you could wake up in LA in the room, and you had no idea what city you're in because all the rooms were identical. Not until you opened the curtains did you know the difference. And we know now that guests want to immerse themselves in the culture,
yeah,
experience the food. So, just because it's a Vietnamese robot that talks Vietnamese, I think they'll still, hopefully, I'm hoping that, look, I think we certainly need to embrace technology, but I think the revolution will be in taking away the robotic tasks that a lot of our team currently do. Because let's face it, a lot of hotel staff do robotic tasks which are above their pay grade. And it's just that we haven't, night audit's probably a great example.
Yeah.
You get a robot or some piece of tech, whether it's AI or whether it's keystroke learning, which a lot of hotels are doing now,
Yeah.
it goes through the motions. AI virtually disappears, and then, that team, because I remember, I spent many years on night audit. The
Yeah.
level of attention you'd often give the guests was not great because you were in the middle of processing some numbers or something, right? And it's like, I'm
Yeah.
counting cash, well, back in the days when we had cash, from the F&B outlets, and you were trying to balance something, and one of
Yeah.
the cashiers couldn't balance. And so to me, when I think about it, night audit was very transactional. Yes, you were there for guests, but you probably weren't on your best, you weren't delivering the best experience to a guest. And
Sure.
I think now that's my hope for hospitality, is that, we can use technology, do those robotic processes, freeing up people to be genuine, because as you said, people who work in hospitality have a passion, and they want
Yeah.
to deliver an experience. They want to change people's lives. They want to see people smile and have a good time.
Absolutely.
That's what excites us. So that's an interesting question. Wow.
Yeah.
Very deep.
Yeah. You can. Yeah. Like I said, it can go out like that ballpark example as you said, but thankfully now, like you just said, nowadays people still want real human connection, and that's what we can offer here, and especially
Yeah.
here in Vietnam, where of course it's developing nation. Not even developed, actually, the tourism is exploding here, but places like Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh, off the beaten track, you have some amazing local,
Mm.
authentic experiences, and that's what fuels the whole wellness, not just whole wellness travel, but your whole mental well-being. And
Yeah.
like you said, like compared to advanced cities where it's become very sterile and very similar, here we can get out of the hotel and experience that true
Yep.
aspect. And people want that off the beaten track
Yep.
experience.
Yep.
And that's what's great about places like Southeast Asia or even Sri Lanka right now.
Yes. And that's, as you said, that's why it's taking off, because, people want something different. They want to experience the culture, truly experience the culture. I love that. What do you think our industry might look like in 10 years' time, Mario?
Well, okay, let's take
We
out the AI
will
and
be
the
retired, and,
robotics
and it'll
and the
just
emotional.
be, AI Mario.
Sorry,
Will
sorry.
it be AI Mario that,
AI.
that will do your
Let, let,
interview?
let's 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 say that there's no AI 10 years from now. But I'd love to be retired up here, actually playing
Yeah.
golf, enjoying the good life. But our industry 10 years from now is, let's say, if we go right now, what most hoteliers are facing is hiring passion. My three P's, I would say, is that the youth. Like when we started our careers,
Yep.
we had good mentors, and we knew the journey was long, and we saw this as a career.
Mm.
But most when I reflect about how the generation that we have now, millennials and Gen Z, are all about, no, sorry, Gen Z and Gen Alpha actually, is all about instant gratification
Yes.
due to the social media aspect that they have. They feel that the hotel career is not as engaging or rewarding, and
Mm.
they want to have that flexibility. Like, I want to be in the hotel maybe 3 or 4 days a week, but the other 2 days I want to go run my business that I run on my phone as an e-commerce or a side job. That they want that flexibility. They don't feel that they need to be here like what we used to work is 12, 14 hours a day,
Yep.
hustling, grinding, to grow from supervisor to manager to director to the top,
Yep.
learning and embracing it. No, it's they've got so much at their fingertips that they feel that they could earn income. I earn income, but more than that, they have more mental well-being and, I
Yeah.
guess, engagement from certain other aspects in their life that they want to pursue. So in this industry, especially let's say entry-level jobs, when you talk about like what I started as a dishwasher, the housemaids cleaning public areas, changing beds, to line level cooks, to gardeners. I mean, it's tough to find these kind of employees anymore because they have so much at their fingertips now to more skilled labor or skilled jobs. So these are probably jobs that we're definitely going to need robotics to do
Yes.
because
Just thinking that.
I don't think that as youth evolves, and no parent wants their child to be a house cleaner or etc. like that. I mean, especially when you talk about Southeast Asia, the pay wage is still very much lower. Not
Yep.
like Australia, where yeah, you're earning $35 to $40 for being a dishy or a waiter. Here it's very much lower, so it's not considered a career. But if you look back to our days like Europe, right, the famous maitre d', the garçon,
Yep.
they were careers that people look forward to be a part. Like I wanted to be a maitre d' because I had this, aura of my position and the command and the prestige and the respect, or the chief concierge of Cross Keys. These positions held a certain stature in society that you wanted to be a part of it. And how do we create? Like for me, I'm old school hotelier because I guess second generation and being in. I love that old school era of hotels, like the Savoys in London, or I always refer to that movie, The Grand Hotel Budapest, or even the comedy side, Faulty Towers. These are great years of what hotels used to be like. It still can be like that. You've got cutting edge brands like who W, Moxie, Hoxton. You got brands like the Como, QT in Australia. These kind of brands who really play towards the Gen Z Alpha aspect.
Yeah.
So or the standard, which is not really the standard. Like I've never worked with them, but they're trying to appeal to that generation because they understand that how do we create the hotels and the guests who want to experience that? How do we create that whole thing to create, for them to actually work in it and be engaged? So for me, it's how do we create hotels to be more engaging for our employees? And of
Yeah.
course, yes, we have things like we create gamification training purposes where training is done through their iPhones, not just in the training room. So it
Yep.
keeps them more engaged. We have to do more wellness. We have to do a lot more in terms of understanding their wellness requests. And of course, they're very in touch with what is our CSR processes as well, environmentally. More and more youth that come in like, how are you a part of the community, and what are you doing in terms to be CSR certified in many aspects? So that's very interesting. It's not only about pay. So us as hotels have to really understand, develop, and create the employment environment that
Yeah.
caters to all these, be it wellness, be it CSR, be it their well-being, be it the flexibility,
Yeah. I
be
was
it
going
the engaging, the gamification, and the instant gratification. So yeah,
to.
it's a tough job, man. I'll tell you, but it's
It
it's
is.
exciting times.
Is I think to your point, yeah, flexibility, of course. So, as you said, you've got team members who really only want 2 or 3 days a week at the property because they've actually got something they're building on the side. And then you've got team members who want a bit of variety. So they don't
Yeah,
necessarily want to work in housekeeping, 5 days a week. Can I work in the restaurant a couple of days? Can I be exposed to different areas of the hotel? So, and then, we
absolutely.
see it a lot more in the US market, but I think it will happen. Retirees even sort of having casual positions within hospitality that, allows them, once again, flexibility. They might be getting a
Yeah.
pension, but they want to feel they've got something, that they can be a part of. So,
How is Australia? I mean, look, I mean, it's been 20 years since I last worked in Australia, and I grew up where the chef threw the pan at my head. It was a different era. We brought
it's,
up
it's not
on.
politically correct anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Every year I go back, I mean, it still looks great. It's great hotels. I come from Brisbane. I love the Gold Coast and Noosa, fantastic destinations. But it's tough, right, to run, I guess, hotels and business there now. I mean, especially with the wage costs and everything, and the spending, purchasing power, and
The cost of living, we all talk about the cost of living, and someone said, but we don't talk about the cost of business. Everything's gone up. Not only labor costs, but food costs and petrol costs and transport costs and maintenance costs. And at the same time, guest expectations have gone up as well.
yeah,
In a post-COVID world, general managers have said to me that because rates have gone up, expectations have gone up with them as well. So if a guest sees something that's not quite right in the room, they're less tolerable than they were in the past. They're like, oh, like there was a scratch on the bedside table or something. The rooms have to be perfect. So it's a demanding job. It's
yeah,
a demanding job. Having
yeah.
said
Well,
that, Mario, as we
yeah,
get ready to wrap up, you've talked about the 3 Ps: the passion, the persistence,
yeah,
and patience.
yeah,
What other advice would you give somebody looking at hospitality as a career too?
yeah.
How would you in good stead?
Definitely. create your network, your broad network, because that is when we say your net wealth, the network of people that you associate yourself with, be it industry or community or etc. The wealth of knowledge that you can extract out of them, or for you to network your career higher, or to profile yourself, self-brand, especially in an industry now where it's more about your brand, you as your personal brand, and who do you associate yourself with, and how do you create community ties, being community relationships, is very important as well. Because you don't understand the holistic value of that is unbelievable. Creating genuine relationships with your network, helping them out with connections, etc. You'll
Yep.
see that come back to you in different ways to your business or your personal life, being business referrals, career progression referrals, even just having good friends to have a drink or a glass of wine with or head out with,
Yep.
Build a network that's not just purely about you thinking, what can I get out of that person? No. Create a harmonious network relationship where you're generally building a relationship that can be your best mate. And you'll see that flourish even more.
Mm.
So that is more and more and more important. And like we were touching about this now, because everything is more automated and everything's more online, people are losing this one-to-one real connections.
Mm.
So get out there, network at Chamber of Commerce events, go to community events, create new relationships, and go to host events even at your property that are all about networking around like-minded things. Or because you'll see the ripple effect come back to you. And so I say, your network is your net wealth.
Yep. And that's a really good point. I think a lot of guests have always, and you've mentioned it as we've spoken as well, general managers that have had a dramatic impact on your career. I'm sure, you've kept in touch with them. You were able to reach out to them for guidance on a particular, if you're looking at changing jobs or whatever, having somebody that's gone ahead before you and being able to seek guidance from them is a wonderful thing as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're quite right about connections. I think you still got me thinking about robotics and AI. So I was thinking, that is probably the one thing that we've got over AI. I mean, AI will be able to say you can Google it or research and it'll tell you that, you got to contact such and such. But sometimes it's that 6 degrees of separation
Yeah.
or having a connection with someone. It makes a big difference. And I'm at a point in my career where you see that as well. I mentioned, going to the trade show in the US and being able to actually broker a meeting between, one of the vendors that I work with and a hotel group, a guy from Australia being able to get a company in the US and somebody in Canada to talk to each other seems ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Because Canada's the 51st state in theory, but sometimes it's those connections that you have allow you to bring parties together, as you said. So that is a valuable part of our industry.
It's like how we are here today. Look, Stefan is in Hong Kong,
Stefan?
you're in Sydney, and I'm in Da Nang. And he just dropped the line. I said, "All right, let's catch up." And
Exactly
here we
right.
go.
Exactly right. I love it. And it's just our industry.
Yeah.
Mario, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thanks, Brendan. Really, likewise as well. Great to talk to a fellow Aussie again as well, a veteran of the industry. And thank you for your time and thank you for letting me be on this podcast of
Um,
yours. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, and for the guidance for the younger generation and just all the feedback. No, it's fantastic. I love it. Thank you.
Hope to see you out here sometime. We'll have a round of golf for a
Definitely.
couple of years. Yeah.
If I'm over in Vietnam, I'll definitely reach out.
Thanks a lot. All right.